April 25, 1980, Manchester Airport. Dan Air's Boeing 727-100 is preparing to charter flight DA-1008 to carry a group of passengers from Manchester to Santa Cruz to Tenerife and then return on the same day with another group of people. There are 138 passengers and 8 crew members on board. The flight is being prepared by an experienced crew consisting of Captain, 50-year-old Arthur J. Whalen, with a total flight time of 15,299 hours. Co-pilot, 33-year-old Michael J. Firth, who flew 3,492 hours. Flight engineer, 33-year-old Raymond J. Carey, the total flight time of which was 3,340 hours. At 9:22, after completing checklists and receiving information about the weather along the route, the aircraft took off from Manchester Airport. The flight went without a hitch. And at 13:14, the crew, at the direction of the control center in Las Palmas, got in touch with the Tenerife approach controller and reported.
Tenerife approach, Dan Air 1008. We are at 10,990 feet 16 miles from the Tango Foxtrot November beacon.
Approach controller Justo Camanyanes reported at 13:14.
Dan Air 1008, descent to Foxtrot Papa Lighthouse. Proceed to Tango Foxtrot November. Flight altitude 10,990 feet. Expect runway 12, direct approach.
The crew repeated the clearance and requested weather information, to which at 13:15 the controller in Tenerife reported.
Okay, runway will be 12, wind 233 knots, visibility 3 to 4 miles, cloud cover 2/8 at 393 feet, plus 4/8 at 820 feet.
About a minute later, the controller cleared the descent to 6,003 feet. The crew confirmed the order. And the dispatcher immediately asked him to move away from the Tango Foxtrot November radio beacon, to which the crew informed that they were 8 miles from the beacon. At 13:18 the aircraft reported that it had passed the Tango Foxtrot November beacon and proceeded to the Foxtrot Papa radio beacon. As the recordings of the voice and parametric recorders later showed, this message was made 33 seconds after the actual passage of the beacon. Having fixed the position of the aircraft, the controller immediately transmitted.
Roger. Standard approach on Foxtrot Papa. Approach course 150 degrees. Left turn. Await instructions.
To this the crew only replied,
Roger, Dan Air 1008.
Since at that time non-repetition of the received information was allowed by ICAO. After 56 seconds, the plane reported,
Dan Air 1008, Foxtrot Papa, altitude 196 feet, course taken.
In addition to the British Dan Air, the controller also communicated with the Spanish flight IB711, Iberia, and with it the radio exchange was carried out in Spanish, which was a practice recommended by ICAO. The Spanish aircraft cleared 5,000 feet and the controller directed the British aircraft to descend to that altitude. At 13:21, Flight 1008 heard the last radio message.
Dan Air 1008, we had a message about the proximity of the Earth.
As the flight recorders showed, at the time of the belated message to the controller about the passage of the Tango Foxtrot November radio beacon, the crew was already 1,312 feet behind him. Further, when turning around, the crew did not take the set course of 255 degrees, passing 0.62 miles south of the Foxtrot Papa Lighthouse. As a result, the aircraft entered an area where the minimum flight altitude was 14,501 feet. Even when passing south of the Foxtrot Papa Lighthouse, the co-pilot began to express doubts that they were on the right course, but the captain replied that they were flying parallel to the runway, and everything was in order. Then the flight engineer began to express doubts. But at that moment, the controller gave the order to descend to an altitude of 4,921 feet, which was confirmed by the crew. After the control repetition of this instruction, the captain suddenly said,
Hey, did he say that the course of approach was 150?
At that moment, he seemed to remember the previously transmitted course of 150 degrees, which should have been taken after passing the Foxtrot Papa radio beacon. The co-pilot only hesitantly said,
"Yes, this is the approach course."
and the captain has already begun to perform a left turn. At this moment, unexpectedly for the crew, the GPWS warning about the dangerous proximity of the ground sounded.
Pull up, pull up, pull up.
The captain stopped the left turn and began to make a right turn, entering the valley, while the GPWS warnings stopped. The co-pilot suggested taking a course of 122 degrees and leaving this area, but the captain continued to turn to the right, believing that by doing so he was taking the plane away from the mountains. 23 seconds after the GPWS warning, the captain contacted the controller and reported,
Dan Air 1008, we had a message about the proximity of the ground.
A couple of seconds later at 13:21, flying at an altitude of 5,452 feet, the Boeing crashed at high speed into a cloud-covered mountain 7 miles from the Foxtrot Papa Lighthouse and completely collapsed. The crash of Flight 1008 claimed the lives of all 146 people on board. At the time of the events, it was the largest air crash in British aviation history. After a thorough investigation, the Spanish Commission came to the conclusion that the cause of the crash was that the captain, without taking into account the flight altitude, directed the aircraft into a zone of high terrain, which did not allow maintaining a safe height above the terrain. This was facilitated by insufficient tracking of navigation equipment and the lack of necessary assistance from the co-pilot. The British side generally agreed with the opinion of the Spanish Commission, but at the same time made several comments. First of all, the controller's commands sounded ambiguous and contributed to the confusion of the pilots in the situation and their disorientation. It was also noted that the holding height of 4,921 feet was insufficient for Los Rodeos airport conditions and should be increased to 7,874 feet. Don't drop the plane below 6,889 feet, and the crash could have been avoided. Finally, the approach procedure itself was quite complex, resulting in the crews having to make sharp turns, which also contributed to disorientation.